All right, now it's my pleasure to welcome upon the bridge of the new mothership, Ark Midnight, R. Scott Lemriel. He is a hidden truth researcher who is passionate about revealing to others what he has discovered and is continuing to discover regarding purposeful hidden truth on Earth and on an interdimensional galactic scale. Oh, you didn't know you were walking into this one, did you? Lemriel was originally inspired to write the Ceres agenda for the experiential benefit of the readers, based on the many awareness-expanding events that have occurred throughout this lifetime and which continue to this day. Eventually, these events revealed a most ancient hidden galactic history and a history of Earth and our solar system that helped to confirm the depth of purposefully hidden truth he was uncovering through direct experience, in contrast to relying upon only belief or theory. Now, after 40 years of extensive experiential research into the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomena, and via numerous conscious out-of-body travel and bi-location explorations into parallel and higher dimensional realities, as well from journeys along the past and future time track. Wow, Scott has finally put forth the Ceres Agenda book from among 4 completed book manuscripts. This is his second published work. His first publication came about after he sent a very special document he wrote to a dear lady friend named Omnek Onek for her benefit. Soon after this, he received a request from a European publisher asking if this very special document about the discovery of new uplifting, transforming energy, or ray, could be published as the last culminating chapter of her about-to-be-published autobiography titled The Venusian Trilogy. Very shortly after giving permission for this, Scott accepted a publishing contract offer from Page Publishing in New York to publish the Ceres Agenda. Scott's also an actor, author, producer, director, and music composer who recently fulfilled the role of a UFO extraterrestrial consultant for the producer-director on a feature film. In the past, he's directed 50 weekly TV shows with the theme Exploring Your Spiritual Life in Washington State. A regular host interviewing prominent guests from around the world, and a segment of each show included the watching TV audience when they would call into the show and talk with the guests or offer experiences of their own relative to each show's topics about spiritual phenomena. These topics included out-of-body travel, past life recall, dream travel, journeys along the past time track, and journeys into parallel and higher dimensions. Over 3 decades, Scott has written numerous screenplays and related books. He recently wrote, directed, and co-produced several documentary promotional videos for the Ceres Agenda, that book based upon his lifetime of direct experiences with exploring purposefully hidden truth. Page Publishing in New York officially published the book on the 10th of January this year. In addition, he previously wrote the Parallel Time Trilogy, feature film screenplays and books that disclose part of the long-forgotten ancient history of Earth and our solar system, and how benevolent and malevolent extraterrestrials were secretly operating behind the scenes then as they are today. These up-and-coming projects will be available to the worldwide public in the very near future. R. Scott Lemriel, welcome to Caravan to Midnight. Wow. And what
My pleasure to be here.
Golly, man, what an ordeal, a technological ordeal, but it's good. It's like, folks, we had Scott on Skype, but Skype started getting really, really stupid, and I made the comment that said, gee, isn't it amazing? We can talk to Australia, we can talk to Japan, try and talk to one of our fellows here in the States, and that becomes a little more problematic. In fact, problematical, which is a contraction of problematic as hell. So, yeah, that's how it is. Hey, Scott, it's really good to talk to you. You have an entirely different, well, to use that unfortunate term, but everybody knows what it means. You have a different, I'm not going to say spin. You have a different perspective on this. And you're in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And a while ago, before things started crashing down around our shoulders and ears and heads and lips and face and everything, you were saying that they had no chemtrails where you were down there by Laguna Beach, close to it.
Lake Forest, yeah.
Lake Forest,
and mm-hmm.
And then you said they spray around San Diego, but not so much in L.A. And people were going to hospital over respiratory problems.
Up in Washington, yeah, about 3 hours east of Seattle, Select City. They'd taken 4 prop planes off of a was a commercial airport that the Air Force rents, and they'd take planes up and crisscross pattern dump these chemicals on them 2-3 times a week, and people would end up with respiratory problems in the hospitals there. Kind of like a scientific experiment. And, of course, for human beings who have wives and babies and to go out and be ordered to do this, they're given only as much information as they need to know and no more. They're ordered to do it. They generally go out and do this stuff. They could be told it's for helping the atmosphere. But what we measured in it is dangerous levels of sulfur, man-made elements like strontium, barium, and aluminum in these chemtrail sprays. And that's generally designed to basically make the next generation infertile, amongst other things. And they do it also to seed the atmosphere for some kind of connectivity with their HAARP stuff. So there's a lot of different reasons why they do it, but it's not good for human beings. It's like I said earlier, if somebody came up to me or any of the people I know in the world, including you, John, or your crew, and said, here's $1 million, go up and spray chemicals on people. You wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. No one I know would do it, which means, quite literally, these people who are doing this are not really in control of themselves anymore. We're going to get into that, and we're going to get into the very positive side of what I do, which is always about a benevolent outflow to people, including hidden government, military-industrial complex, royalty, people off-world that are totalitarian extraterrestrial. There's a few of them, highly evolved. Most of them are benevolent, are human and humanoid and other races. We'll get into that. And how this all came about and why people are doing this to each other on this planet means that they're not really in control of the free will they think they have. And that came about, that change, officially after World War II. So the Savior's Agenda, the book that I present, and then demonstrate for people a technique they can use to access purposefully hidden truth on a grand cosmic multidimensional scale. And I mean this, safely. It comes about, I actually got inspired to write this book after a lifetime of experience with extraterrestrial, masterful teachers from other planes, other dimensions, other worlds, and here on Earth. And after 40 years of doing this, and I'm 64 now, I finally, about January 10th of this last year, published The Savior's Agenda through a publisher in New York. And the book is really about my life's experiences. It really is about direct experiences I've had in revealing hidden truth in the book for people. And when it goes back to chemtrails, we want to kind of wrap that up. I think the chemtrail issue is something that people are doing almost like terraforming the planet for another race, because it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense that they do it. It makes no sense that they dump harmful chemicals on our own people worldwide in select cities, which they're doing. So one of the first things that has to be stopped in a benevolent way is that issue. And I go back to, as an example, I can tell you how friends from out of town, benevolent extraterrestrials, very highly evolved spiritually and technologically, what they're doing right now in intervening in this planet to a degree. They're not tyrants, so they don't like to control and take over people. But there's something people need to know that is taking place behind the scenes you won't see on CNN or controlled networks or, TV or any of that kind of thing, because the process of doing what they're doing worldwide, as I said, began after World War II, and I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of how that happened.
Please.
After World War II, Eisenhower had 5-star general, great guy, good man. I know for a fact he was a good man. They just beat the Nazis. They beat Japan. They acquired a nuclear weapon with technology that was given to us by totalitarian extraterrestrials we weren't supposed to have, and Hitler was given it before us. This is a really important information, because people, when they start to hear truth, they begin to wake it up in themselves. And he got confronted after World War II. He accepted this nuclear weapons program that Truman started before him. Truman created the National Security Act and the CIA 3 weeks after the Roswell crash, because that was a real deal. That craft was shot down, but not by our military. That's something people would classify. It terrified people in this country and around the world, that we just won this world war, devastated the planet, cost hundreds of billions of dollars, many millions of lives lost, and they needed to rebuild the world and get people to be baby boomers and do it in a safe way where, our military and our government could give people the idea that we can protect them to safely rebuild a destroyed world. Eisenhower was contacted first by benevolent extraterrestrials who were human from Pleiades and fewer star systems, and he was approached because we were setting off nuclear weapons above ground on our planet, which concerned these people greatly. So you get this big rash of UFO things happening after nuclear bombs started going off here. And he was approached, I think it was out of Edwards, and met with these people, and they were very uplifting to him because they're very benevolent and much more advanced than they are. He was very scared because they required one thing, that we give up all nuclear and radioactive materials on this planet, and they would come down here and solve everything, make us a spacefaring race, have us join in a world group of planets out there. We would have already been a spacefaring race right now. And he had to turn them down, him and his generals, because he figured, how can I convince the Soviet Union to do this? I couldn't get people to give up this stuff.
Yeah.
And he had to turn them down. Basically, he says, if we do that, we'll be defenseless against a foreign power, or you guys, if you turn out to be bad. So they said, well, look, we don't force our will on anyone. We'll come back at a later day, and maybe you'll be ready then. What people don't know is a few months later, he met with another group, and this is allowed under treaty, off-world treaty between races. He met with a totalitarian group, bipedal, non-human, very haughty, very arrogant, and they offered to give us advanced off-world technology in exchange for getting some DNA samples from some of our people. And he didn't feel good around these beings. And he, being a good man, he turned them down immediately. So we can't do that. And they didn't require that we give up our nuclear weapons or radioactive materials. They didn't care. So he said, I can't do that. But this ambassador was very clever. He said to him, if you don't accept our help to get some advanced off-world technology, mind you, they're more antiquated stuff, not their good stuff. He said, then we'll go to the Soviet Union, we'll make them the preeminent power on Earth. That scared him and his generals. So they were kind of blackmailed into signing this treaty. The problem with that is that this race, representatives, ambassadorial representatives of this race, were in the Soviet Union with the premier at that very moment doing the same blackmail technique to them. They played one against the other. So if you look at the condition of the world now, as most people, rational people, will do, you look at it and you realize that it's not the good guys who are really running things in a classified or a secret hidden government here. A second government was created here after World War II for two reasons. One, it was to have a working government survive a sudden nuclear strike. So they created a second group of people who could run things in a classified military-industrial complex in case the people in Washington were suddenly wiped out, the cabinet, the president, etc. That's where it started. And by doing that, they had to create a system that could be funded and black ops projects created, experimentation in reverse engineering. This technology was being given to them, illegally, mind you, and develop this mostly for weapons technology to try to get us to a point where we could defend ourselves against alien races. And this is really where this came from. However, when you make a treaty with a group that prides itself on being the most cunning covert manipulators in the universe, very arrogant, they way outdid the NSA or CIA or anybody. They didn't see it coming. They didn't have a chance, which means they signed a treaty and then got controlled through a misuse of extraterrestrial technology. They use a very low-frequency waveform, and then they implant terrorizing images in the electromagnetic field around a person's body. They don't need to put a little microscopic electronic chip under the skin. That was done by the military-industrial complex, reverse engineering some technology they had to try to use a more awkward, more antiquated type of this control mechanism that the advanced races can use when they want to abuse it. So they can put these kinds of things into people with a little device they wear on their belt. And suddenly, you ever notice how elected officials will look at the camera, wide-eyed, and never blink, and tell you the truth, and tell you they want to change things. And then they get elected, and they suddenly do 180 degrees. Right, John?
Oh, yes.
Right. That's because they have handlers around them that are influenced by this group off-world, illegally, mind you. And they've been breaking an off-world treaty for ages, and particularly since World War II, to infiltrate this place for one reason, to get resources. That means if you classify something, you have to lie to everybody, don't you?
Oh,
you
absolutely.
have to begin to cover everything up.
Sure.
And when you do that, you're stepping into bed with people who are far better at doing it than you are on Earth.
Every time.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They want one thing. They want resources. Human beings are not, they are not respecters of human beings at all, this group. And they are also in control of the tall and short grays that people hear about. They use them as front people to do their dirty work because then they don't get caught openly breaking this treaty. That's how they work. And so Eisenhower actually signed a treaty with this totalitarian group, the same group that tried to help Hitler advance his engineers and scientists because he was their kind of people. And if you think about it, when we got their scientists, these SS Nazi scientists and Soviet Union got the other half, the group, the extraterrestrial group they were connected to, came with them.
Say that again? You got a little faint there.
Excuse me?
That last part again, that just the last sentence?
Yeah, the extraterrestrial group that gave Hitler's scientists this technology, the SS Nazi officers,
yes,
like Werner von Braun,
yep, came
with them to our country in the Soviet Union when we divided them up and gave them apart and put them in the head of NASA.
Yes. Okay, I got you.
That's where this started. Now, when you build and work with underground bases under this country with an alien race, because you can't see what they're doing, so you put them all underground and connect them. Then you can work on this technology, as perverse as it is, or advanced extraterrestrial technology, and try to develop programs on Earth, in part to protect the United States, in part just to protect a few elite, very wealthy families, to be honest, who have been promised exemption from kind of things and treatment that these beings would plan for everyone else here. It's easy to have 7 billion people on a planet work in their normal jobs because these implants I'm talking about don't affect whether you're married or having kids or go to your job. But what it does, the terrorizing implants, when they're put in an electromagnetic field, play on the nervous system, but you don't see or hear what it is that's implanted. You just feel it. It's very clever. So when you try to uncover your true innate ability to know what's going on in the universe, which all human beings have, then you can't access that. Then you can control through controlling of hidden elite families first. You never control masses. Then you get them to control the elected people, and then they control the masses. What you've got is a planet developing, mining certain precious minerals and rare earth minerals and things like this, and then secretly shipping them off-world under treaty in classified bases. And this has been going on for more than 60 years. It's not good. And we have a base on the backside of the moon, one on Mars. Let's face it, the Soviet Union and the United States go all the way to the moon. We went under Apollo, land craft there, men get out and walk around, and then both of them unilaterally tell the people of the world we're not going back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to anyone?
It really, really doesn't. And then, of course, there's the other part about how we never went to the moon. As you may know, John Lear, he's a great pilot and a great guy. He maintains that we never went to the moon. That all of those films, at least all of the we may have, but all of the films that we saw were staged. He said Kubrick did it. He said Kubrick's the guy who they called upon to do this, and that anybody that was associated with that whole, propaganda movie series of guys playing golf on the moon, stuff like that, that was completely contrived, and those people are gone. You won't be talking. Nobody will be talking to them anymore. That's what John says. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. So you're saying that irrespective of what the Russians and the American government are telling people, we do have bases there.
Yes, and they're cohabitated with an extraterrestrial group.
What do you make of China wanting to go back, Scott?
China's been involved in all this all along anyway. It's classified.
All right.
They're not an enemy. I mean, we borrow trillions in order to conduct wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, don't we? From China.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So what's their vested interest in all this? Think about
I'm thinking maybe getting paid back is secondary to the big agenda.
Well, why would anybody want something like a bunch of dirt in Afghanistan? The Russians wanted it because it has one of the richest oil reserves, untapped, no oil ever drilled.
I'm thinking it might be strategic minerals. What do you think about that? Do you think, is it strategic minerals that they want? And
it is definitely certain rare earth minerals. There's very great abundance there. Gold, platinum, and rare earth minerals they use in space technology and other things, yeah.
And they want to ship them off planet?
Mined. And the interest in getting to those is actually extraterrestrial-based as well.
Ah.
You got to have a stable government and not a bunch of drug lords running around in order to stabilize the country and start putting oil wells in. It would help the people tremendously as far as their standard of living, but it's really done for an ulterior reason, which has to do with energy and types of energy that people are not allowed to know about here.
Should I even ask you, how do you know these things?
Well, I do things... I have been able to get out of my body and travel into the universe and into other dimensions, parallel dimensions, other worlds, as well as have face-to-face direct contact with benevolent extraterrestrials and telepathic contact most of my life since I was 5. And so when I go out and look at things, I look at it with people from an objective perspective from outside the Earth, with people who have never been part of this trap, have never been dumbed down, have never been implanted or manipulated genetically. And they can see the true history of Earth and our solar system, and they can see what's really going on. So I get my information and my direct experience with them. And so what I talk about, I only talk about what I know to be true with certainty. I don't deal in theory or speculation or doubt at all, because it's not constructive. There's no way to help your fellow man on Earth by giving them more theories and data, because all they've got is theories and data and no experience, which means if you can keep a mass of people in doubt, and just doubt, misinformation out there, there might be ETs, there might not be, just keep them like that, you can control them. That's not the normal state of a human being, to be uncertain about things. That's not the way human beings on other worlds are. A normal human being on another planet lives at least 1,000 years, up to 20 if there's a need. Because the genomes on the DNA that we've mapped out here, there's over 1 billion of them, are just switches. And if you know the precise frequency to turn off and on that switch, you can turn it off or on. You live 1,000 years, you want them to live 100 so they can be controlled, turn the switch down. You want them to forget about their telepathic natural ability, turn it down, make it intuition. Get rid of their photographic memory capability, which is normal, and make it so they can't access more than 6 to 10% of 100% of the brain they have. Makes no sense, does it, John? We have 100% brain. Why are we using so little of it here when on other worlds they use all of it?
Always wondered that. I always wondered why that. Human beings only use 10% of their brains. And then people would theorize that the rest of it is for, I don't know, ESP, some sort of speechless communications, something, but they couldn't prove it.
People can speak with vocal cords, but they're telepathic. The reason human beings are naturally telepathic, and most of the human beings out in the universe outside of Earth are, which also means that human beings in the future are not going to evolve in some lofty being they think will take place later on down the road with all these abilities. What I'm saying is human beings evolved long ago out in the galaxy, several billion years ago, other worlds, and were brought here. In fact, no human being on Earth is native to here. They didn't evolve here from monkeys or apes. They didn't evolve from the amoeba on this planet. This planet couldn't possibly evolve human beings because the poles of the planet flip 180 degrees overnight every 100,000 years, just like clockwork. There's been 6 ice ages here in 600,000 years. And when that happens, it's a very violent affair and destroys what's on the surface completely. And because this planet is unique in that its poles flip, and that goes back in galactic history and what happened in our solar system long ago, then you can't have a race develop here past 100,000 years before it's wiped out. On other worlds, they can evolve for millions of years uninterrupted. So this is a problem for humans on this planet. So every time this is wiped out, it has to be recolonized by different groups under treaty. And it goes on. So when I'm talking about the DNA of people, when these genomes are shut down, and it was done long ago on this planet has housed political prisoners in different times and different cycles in its past, its ancient past, that people don't know anything about. And they've been put here, brought here as workers. If you are a reptilian race, bipedal, strong, very intelligent, totalitarian, for instance, and you have some human slaves, and you bring them here, and you're allowed to have a secret base here or two, along with other races in certain pockets on Earth, and you have them work, and you leave them behind, and you don't care about them. That race who's been genetically shut down is then passes on those shut down genomes generation after generation after generation. And that problem has never been righted here. And one of the reasons that this place has not been corrected to be like other worlds is simply because when you get a totalitarian group, an advanced technological group, in bed after World War II with people, they're very sore losers. And if you kick them out by force, they would destroy this planet on their way out of town. Galactic history shows that. So the thing that's held up this change, this transformation for this world, has been how to come up with a way to safely set free these tyrant races on other worlds, because long ago they were implanted by another race, and they've been running around terrorizing the universe just short of war under treaty for 500,000 years. And they always do it to just try to get more property and resources, just breaking the treaty just short of war. We've come close to a lot of wars. And on Earth, during the Cold War, there are 12 different incidences that actually occurred where both sides, the Soviet Union and the United States, actually pushed the button, these knuckleheads, to blow this place up. And in each single instance, through 2 or 3 of these alien craft, saucer-shaped craft, would hover over the main launch computer here and in the Soviet Union, shut down the launch computers. No word given, no communication, and they would leave, turn the launch computers back on with the launch mode shut down. One of the most highly classified things there is, one of them. Which means if the military said, hey, this is what's happening to us, we can't control or protect you to be baby boomers, look what they can do to us. They basically said this: we don't like to interfere in your planet. This is the good guys I'm talking about. But you can do whatever you want, but you're not going to do that. You're not going to have a nuclear war. So we're not going to have one, is what I'm sharing with you, John. We never will.
Yeah.
That won't happen. So there's been some benevolent interference all along, but it's a very tricky situation because there is a 500,000-year-old treaty amongst alien races. There are a few totalitarian, diabolical races out there that are implanted themselves. And then there are a majority of them out there, hundreds of millions of worlds of highly advanced human and humanoid, spacefaring, highly evolved spiritually, highly evolved technological races that work together in parallel dimensions on many worlds in the physical galaxies we see, but also they're able to traverse in an anti-gravity technology between these dimensions within the physical universe, different higher frequencies. So they have trade and socialization between such a vast array of world systems. And then there's Earth. And then there's these few tyrant groups, and they have a treaty because these tyrant groups lost this war 500,000 years ago. And what they recently found out is they were implanted long ago by another race, and they've been driving this terror campaign across this galaxy for 500,000 years, always being very clever to just do it just short of going to war because they would lose. This is how they work. This is how they think. So all of this is coming to a final conclusive end. And we happen to be alive on a planet where we're going to witness this transformation of this world. We are going to absolutely require massive help, benevolent help from outside this planet, to turn the misdirected leaders around here in time, because they are not in control of what they're doing. I never tell people to be angry at, leaders, a president of the United States or anybody else, because I know for a fact that they've been misdirected and handled in a certain way to go in directions they normally wouldn't do. So something came into existence fairly recently and was given to a race called the Say-Rays. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about who the Say-Rays are. Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
The Say-Rays are human. They're 18 to 25 feet tall. They were the sponsoring benefactors who helped bring human, humanoid, and other very advanced life, plant and animal and mammal, onto many worlds in the Milky Way galaxy, Andromeda, and many other galactic systems over 1 billion years ago, and then helped set all this up and then vanished. They just split because they figured that all these other races have to kind of fend for themselves and figure it out.
Yeah.
this was a problem because some of the races they helped bring into existence long ago also tended to go towards the tyrant area of wanting to control and dominate and control their people and control resources, and they went in that direction. And so, recently they had a tool which was brought to them, which enlightened them. They're already very advanced. I mean, they immortalized their physical forms a billion years ago. And they could appear before you in a physical form you could touch. You'd be looking way up at them. But they did this a long time ago, and then they got this tool which really raised their consciousness, and they realized they needed to be responsible for these younger races, because this tool that they now have, which was passed through them through the Galactic Alliance, what I call the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, which is made up of 450 million highly evolved, spacefaring, highly spiritually and technologically evolved world systems that trade and work with each other in complete harmony. It doesn't just say that there aren't any bad guys out there. There are. The condition of this planet should show that to anyone, that we have influences here, and everything that's going on this planet, even royalty and royal bloodlines, were all imported here. They were not originated here on this planet. They were imported through history. There's a history that's missing in people's awareness that goes back 55 million years to when the dinosaurs were extinct. And they were brought here as an experiment. When they got so ponderous and heavy, they were eating themselves to death, and they were done away with. Human beings in our form have been able to live on this planet for over 50 million years. Where is that missing history? What I'm sharing here is that human beings have the ability, when they've got the right technique and they have the right protection to do it, to wake up this third eye, this inner proverbial third eye, which works through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and connect their being, which is not physical, directly into the omnipresent field of force that underlies and connects everything in creation, even the void of space. In the CERN supercollider in Switzerland, they call it the God particle. It's not matter. They don't know what it is, but they know its energy's everywhere. And it's that you plug into. It's not part of a positive and negative stream. It's above that, beyond that. It's a pure positive energy. And when human beings plug into that, it's like taking a drop of water and plugging into an entire ocean of this water. You remain an individual, but now you have access to that wisdom pool. You can see the advantage that would have for anybody on Earth if they could do that. Because they do that on other worlds. It's normal. It's a piece of cake for them. They know how to leave their bodies from birth, and their societies and government encourage them to do this. And they remember their other lives and other worlds when they come into a lifetime, and their parents reinforce it's not like it is on Earth at all. This place is really one of the most retarded planets out there, mainly because of the polar shift problem, which what I'm sharing with people today is the Fairies have a tool now, with help from even more advanced beings, to permanently stop the polar shifting of this planet. That means no more ice ages, no more golden iron age and back again, if you know anything about that. These cycles, these grand cycles for this planet, that means that people can evolve here for millions of years. It can be a stable place. That's going to take some real technological wonder, way beyond me to do it. But I know they can. So this is kind of what I wanted to bring to the show today. This is what I share with people in general at major conferences around the world and on radio shows like yours, John. I was on Coast to Coast in April 8th for 3 hours, and now I'm on here with you. I always enjoyed listening to your show on Saturday night. Now I'm really quite delighted you have your own program.
Oh, I am too, and it's I miss talking with people. I miss talking with people, live over the phone sometime. But frankly, we didn't do it that much anyway. Every once in a while, we do a Friday night show where it'd be all open lines or something, which was great. It was great fun, but mostly it was talking with learned persons like yourselves, and it's it's fun. Well, everything happens pretty much the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because remember I mentioned there's going to get some help from some friends from out of town, make sure we have an uninterrupted phone line. It's better on the phone because we don't have the possibility of a sudden video connection through Skype being broken up, and who knows who's doing that. But the point is this can't be broken up. That's all I can tell you. It won't be.
We have so much trouble with some of the connections that we have, and the more controversial the guest's information is going to be, the more trouble we have. And if it happens once, okay, fine. But when it just keeps happening, you begin to think, say, are we seeing a trend here? It's like, yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't worry about that stuff. And here's why. When I get on radio now to promote the book, and then more importantly, it isn't just trying to sell a book, I promote and deliver to people a technique and a method, and I demonstrate it for them and get them doing it with me, how they can connect safely to this purposefully hidden truth that they should normally be able to access, which means once it starts to wake up in them, it cannot be reversed. It comes with a protection, which means as more people begin to wake up their natural abilities that have been purposefully suppressed on this planet, it's irreversible. And they're getting the help from friends from out of town to maintain that direction. So when I go to, say, the Norwegian conference I just came back from, which was the extraterrestrial UFO disclosure conference that had either human extraterrestrials at the conference who were brought here in one way or another, who lived normal lives here, or people who've had direct contacts all their lives, like myself. So it was a unique conference in that way. What I shared with them in the second half of that conference presentation, one was an hour and a half, and there was another hour and a half on Sunday, was that there was a special energy field set up over the entire town of Bergen and over that hotel. And that protection, and I asked everybody in the audience, do you all feel this kind of protection? They all raised their hand. And after I was done with Sunday's talk, they came up to me one at a time and told me they could really feel this. And I said, one thing that's very important is going to go home with you. No one coming to this conference, no one leaving by plane, boat, airplane, or how they're going to drive will be harmed in any way or interfered with. And we weren't. So that was a really unique conference. And I've sent you the two links, both presentations that are on YouTube now, John. You should have those just for you to review later or whatever you want to do with them.
Excellent.
And then I've been on the radio show Out of This World with Ted Moore in Washington. There's about 3.5 million people. He was flown over there to do his radio show live after the Friday night session, which 5 of us did, and aired back to the U.S., and that was interesting. And then I knew I was going to come back and get on your show, and I was quite excited about that. I was looking forward to having time to share with you. I always respected what you did on Saturday nights, and I'm really delighted to be here.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Yeah, it was a great time. A little rough on the Constitution when you're trying to keep a daytime schedule during the week, but it was more than worth it. It really was. Well,
maybe I should give you a little background for you and your listeners about how I got into this. You think?
Oh, absolutely.
What started me down?
That generally comes at the beginning of the interview, but you and I started chatting. I thought, let's just dive right into it because...
Yeah, I think it's fine. I'll give it to him now. I mean, when I was 5, I was walking up the steps to my parents' house in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I had a kind of a profound experience happen to me. My parents were arguing, and I had an expanded state of consciousness happen to me, and I could see their auric fields, their energy fields around their bodies, and there was a red energy band between them. They were having just a mild, normal human argument, not violent. And the rays coming off of that were very painful to me as a being. And I shot out of my body, and I suddenly experienced myself as an adult, mature male, very wise. And I was looking up at a sphere of energy, maybe 4 or 5 feet across. It was transparent golden, and inside of it were geometric formulas and the positions of the star patterns. And I looked at those star patterns, and the only thing that I said to myself, Earth, what am I doing on Earth? That was a really profound experience. And I looked around, and then I went back in the body, and some years later, I was living in Washington State, not too far from Mount Rainier, a place called Bellevue, up on a forested, knoll-covered semi-mountaintop. And I was, on a moonless night even, you could see Mount Rainier in the distance. And at that time, which is back, I think, around 62, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I wanted to know what beer tasted like. My parents drank it. I said, what is this big deal about beer? I'm like 12 years old. So one night, I got up at 3 a.m, snuck in the refrigerator, took one of my dad's cans of beers, climbed out the window, went across the dew-laden grass up to a narrow roadway that divided the houses up in this forested area. And you could see a beautiful, clear view of the night sky, no moon. and I popped this can of beer. Next thing I knew, I was spread eagle on my back on the ground with the can of beer in my left hand, held upright, unspilled, opened. And I was looking at a craft, an extraterrestrial craft, probably about 30 feet across, pulsating from blue to white light. And it was sitting about 50 feet above about a 50-foot telephone pole directly up above me. And I experienced a communication, a telepathic communication with a human being, a human male aboard this craft who I knew instantly was benevolent, was not one of these little gray abduction experiences. I had no fear, no trauma. And then a stream of telepathic information started occurring between this being and myself. It was far beyond my ability to deal with it as a 12-year-old, but it went into my consciousness. And that went on for about 15 minutes. And then that craft pulsated from blue to white light faster and faster until it became a solid white light, and then it shot up into space. I got up. No nervous system problems, just looked at the beer, dumped it out, never drank it, put it in the garbage can, went back in bed and went to sleep. Never told a soul. A week later, I was coming home from choir practice, and this school bus would drive a couple miles up to the top of this knoll, drop me off at a wooden bus shed. I'd step out and then watch it go a couple miles down until it disappeared in the trees. I took one more step, and my head was pulled up by this same benevolent male extraterrestrial presence. And I was looking up in the sky at about maybe 10,000 feet, pretty low down. Two groups of 15 of these same craft in triangular formation, just hovering there. And then I got the same impression of a telepathic link between this being and myself, and wonderful information coming in, which is partially where I get this from. And then they broke apart and did this incredible acrobatics around the sky for me. This is at a time when the UFO phenomenon was really large all over the planet. Some of the most extraordinary close-up views and shots of a squadron of craft flying around Mount Rainier took place. In fact, the Piper Cub pilot who shot that coined the phrase flying saucer. That's where that got started. And this is at a time when, of course, I was having experiences myself living right in that area. And, well, my head got pulled up by this benevolent being in one of these 30 craft. They were in two triangular formations I mentioned earlier. And then they flew around and did all these acrobatics and regrouped into the two triangular formations and tipped towards me. Maybe it was a sign of respect. I don't really know. And then they shot up into space and vanished. I went home. I told no one. I never told my parents. I never told anybody growing up. It was probably a very wise thing that I did that, because at that time it would have put me in a really bad situation with parents and psychiatrists and everything else. You know, it's just not the kind of thing back then you'd want to discuss. So I kept silent about it. And then when I was about 20, I went on a road trip with a man and his wife and their newborn baby. We were on kind of a spiritual journey, just touring around the southwestern United States, and we were out in the desert at 3 o'clock in the morning on a cloudless, beautiful star-filled night sky, no moon, and we were driving across this highway desert towards Salt Lake. These people like to listen to country music, so they were listening to a country music station. And suddenly, I get this telepathic link from a human being aboard a craft. He says, "I want to share something with you." I said, "Who are you?" He says, "Oh, my name is Manka." So he told me his name. And then the radio station by itself blurred through the channels, and it hit on a communication channel between a commander at an Air Force base and two Black Hawk helicopter pilots. They had picked this thing up on radar, and he was screaming at them to get out there and find out what this was. And this guy, Monka, said to me, "Pull over the side of the road." So we did that. And I told my friends about it. He said, "I want you to look up through the windshield out over the desert, maybe 5,000 feet up. Just look up in that direction. I want to show you something." So we did that. And just as we're looking out at the night sky, these two Black Hawk helicopters, no lights on, flew over the top of our car over the desert. And we could still hear this conversation between these pilots and this commander. And then Monka said, "Watch this." The whole sky lit up with beautiful cobalt blue light. A big sphere of light, maybe 10,000 feet up, just flashed into existence and then shot straight into the ground as if it was going to crash, vanished. I could hear this commander telling these people, these pilots, to go out there and get this, whatever it is, and find out if there's any wreckage, and they reported back to them that they couldn't detect anything. So We got back in the, turned on the car, drove away. We didn't talk about it. I never told anyone. And then more contacts happened. And then more out-of-body travel and meeting with these beings, which is easier for them because they're not shut down human beings like we are on Earth. And when you approach them out of your body at night when you sleep, they can see you. They can talk with you. These are normal human beings I'm talking about. And so when you want to get set up for an actual contact, perhaps even the rare experience of getting aboard one of these benevolent craft with these beings, first way to do it is to contact them telepathically. Because if anybody really thinks about it, the logistics of tasking one pilot from another planet, a benevolent being, to come down and figure out how to get a hold of an individual they want to give a ride on a ship for some purpose. They have to get that person guided to a desert location out of the way at a specific time and then try to land and get them up and get them off world before they're intervened with by totalitarian forces or other conflicting forces militarily on this planet, because they're all monitoring all this. So it's really tough for them to land, pick someone up, take them on a ride, and bring them back safely. This is harder than people think. That's going to change in the near future.
Yeah. So
that's one of the things I wanted to bring to the table about people who really, so many millions of people deserve to know about extraterrestrials, and they deserve to have these experiences, and they will, coming up. So the Series Agenda book, after these experiences, I didn't even start to write this until, it must have been, January 10th, 2014 is when it was published. It took about a year and a half to do it before that. And I was in constant telepathic link with the ambassador of the Seres race. His name is Turelian. This guy's gigantic. Elven-like, pointed ears, beautiful long hair, like a Greek god. If one of them stood in front of any of us right now, you'd be so uplifted you'd be imbalanced for years. Their energy is so elevated compared to people on Earth, it wouldn't be a good idea. Better that one of the Galactic Alliance members, like people heard of the Pleiades, people from Venus, people from other star systems, come and meet people here, because they would be very uplifting to any one of us as well, but you can handle it better. So the Seres will make their presence known here after this world is changed, and it's going to be changed, fortunately for all of us. The decision was made about 3 3/4 years ago off-world to intervene and transform this planet, because they now have a tool they can use to benevolently neutralize tyrant extraterrestrial races out there in space and hidden behind the scenes, underground and in the military industrial complex of this planet. They plan to extricate political and hidden leaders as well. No one's going to be killed. No one's going to be targeted or attacked, because these people know the people on Earth are not in control of what they're doing. That's the problem. It's not about revenge. So what I bring to the table is really important in announcing that this decision was made. And then, of course, I wrote the book. And the book is like, some people think it's a novel, but it's not. It's a book. The characters, I say this to people, it's fictional only to the degree that the names of characters and locations of certain events have been changed to protect the innocent on this planet until an entirely unexpected, uplifting, worldwide transformation is more openly underway. And it has begun.
Just to revisit a couple of things. This grand deception, that's such an unfortunate expression. The takeaway. What is like just the simplest way to state the whole nature of the grand deception that you described in chapter 6? What's the easiest way to put that people can hold on to it and remember it?
Okay. It's just this. People do not have the free will they think they have here.
Yeah.
I think that's clear to anybody that's half awake. They know that they're being messed with. They know they should know more. You do. I do. We all know we should know a lot more, and that we're being lied to constantly in every imaginable way. That's the grand deception. But here's the thing that people remember. The grand deception is being orchestrated by a tyrant extraterrestrial race. They aren't more powerful than all the benevolent races out there, and their day is numbered. Their whole totalitarian way of operating is coming to a permanent end. That's what is important to tell people. This grand deception misuses extraterrestrial technology to shut down certain faculties in people, to keep them as a working class. In other words, you've got 7 billion people here, right, doing their jobs, mining, mineral, building stuff, and then some of that is shipped off secretly off-world in an exchange program under treaty. And the people on the planet are completely in the dark about this.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing because of who it's being done with. So,
I'm not a theologian by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just wondering if, you do. You feel like, you say we don't have the free will that we think that we have or that we're supposed to have and so forth, but this can be manifest. When we say this, it's like, well, okay, but what does it feel like? To me, it feels like I have a head full of glue sometimes. You just can't see as clearly on most days as you can every once in a while when you have one of these aha moments when, I don't know, does the grid break down momentarily? In other words, do we get glimpses of our true free will and then, circuits blocked or interfered with again? And in those moments, we can make actually a little progress, and we think, I had a moment of clarity, I can move forward. And then you go right back into the head full of mud state. Does this make sense? Because I'll tell you, it does to me because I live it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that has to do with the implantation process I mentioned. It was originally developed on a human world long ago to make sure, now here's the point, to make sure that beings out there that are benevolent never acquire a subconscious mind at all. A normal human being does not have a subconscious mind. Human beings out in those other worlds do not have subconscious minds. A subconscious mind is created when an artificial energy is put into you around your field of energy, so that controlling mechanisms can be put there you're not aware of, subconscious. Yes. And there's a lot in the subconscious that's not part of this implantation process, but the implantation process has a focus one way, to close down the natural function of the pineal gland. That's what the proverbial third eye is. In it, it's like the size of the end of your thumb. There's a vein in and a vein out. It has the strongest blood flow through the body for its size. And it has rods and cones in it. Like your eyes, it's connected to the optic nerve. But unlike the binocular eyes that we have for seeing a small band of light and texture and frequency and light, it's designed, each of those rods and cones, to tune into a precise place in the universe. Other planets, other dimensions, higher dimensions, and there are many. And a normal human being can access this when the liquid in it is clear and not calcified. Fluoride, for instance, in water was used in gulags by Stalin and Hitler to dumb down the inmates because it makes the ability to know truth kind of shut off there. So seaweed and kelp and iodine drops, can be taken to clear up this liquid in the pineal gland. When you get these clarity moments, you, the being, which isn't a physical body, is actually looking out through one of these somewhere and connecting with knowing again, however briefly. And you know with certainty at that moment that what you're perceiving, this aha moment, is real, and you've known it, and why did you forget it? And then it goes, right? These implants will take over. They're designed so that when you try to access the true nature of your being and plug it into the universe through the pineal gland, you run into these artificially created terrorizing programs that you don't see or hear, but you feel plays on the nervous system, so you generally run the opposite direction. That's how people are controlled. You, the being, actually has power as an individual to neutralize all this stuff when you get elevated enough in your awareness. You've always had the ability, any of us have, to overcome any negative misuse of technology or malevolent beings or anything like that. But you have to be woken up to a point to where you begin to know that again for it to start to unravel. So I share with people a technique which involves a certain word that is not native to this planet. It isn't even native to other worlds out there. It comes from a much higher dimension and was brought down for beings to use back in the beginning of creation as kind of a stopgap or a safeguard, a fail-safe, because it only connects the being into this pure positive energy, this omnipresent field of force I was talking about, and gets a person up above the duality of Maya, the positive and the negative, where the subconscious area is. It gets them plugging back into what they originally came from and who they really are. And that begins to unravel. And once that starts, it's irreversible. It will complete itself. So I share with people this HU word, HU, which is not owned or copyrighted or patented by any organization on Earth or off-world. They wouldn't dare to try to do that. It's a universal thing that works for all beings. So when I'm at these conferences or sharing about the Sailor's Agenda, I will share this with a group and have them do this with me, and they all generally do. And once that starts, they feel a protection, and they go away from that, and they begin to, things start happening in their lives. And I know that from the emails and the context I'm getting from around the world, that things are starting to unfold for these people. It's amazing. It really is.
You know, you send my head spinning off in all different directions, because this is really a lot to try to get your mind around. You know,
Sure.
in a single sitting, you've devoted how many years have you devoted to this altogether?
Well, I've been working with the HU for 35 years.
There you go. Well,
At least.
what I'm thinking is, well, a minute ago I said I'm certainly not a theologian, but why do the benevolent out-of-towners have any interest in us at all? I mean, you hear about angels,
Mm-hmm.
and I get the feeling that, I mean, what's in it for them to even mess with us? Is there some sort of a divine thing within us that makes us worth having any interest in at all? Are some of these, well, do we have one or two of them assigned to us as like case officers, or what do you make of that?
It's very clear. Once you start working with the HU, you will have beings assigned to you, people who look over and help to protect you through the process of waking your natural abilities back up. Undoing these implants is the whole purpose of why I present what I do. And I mean, when it comes right down to it, they have a great interest in us because we're them. Remember I said the Say rays were the creators or helped bring into existence human, humanoid, and a lot of races. Dolphins and whales aren't native to this planet. Human beings aren't native to this planet. Many of the plant and animal species and mammalian species were brought here at different times. This has been used as a political prison planet. If you have the technology to implant someone with a control mechanism that says, reincarnate on this planet and forget everything you learned life after life.
Mm-hmm. Did I lose you? No, I got you.
Why do they have an interest in us? Because there isn't a person on this planet that's native to here. The beings all came from other worlds. We are extraterrestrials, every one of us. And they know that. Some of them are friends they lost in war and political prisoners, and they want to right this. They just haven't had the tool to do it in a safe way without destruction and death.
Have they given you any insights into the grand architect of the entire universe? Do they give you any insights into God, the creator of all things?
Yep, they do. They call it Prime Creator.
Prime Creator, yes.
Prime Creator. And here's the thing. It's not a guy on a throne with a white beard.
I didn't much think so.
As a supreme being, of course. But it is an omnipresent field of energy that is a living conscious energy. We, you and I, are made of exactly the same energy in a spherical form. And when you go through the process, believe me, you even remember what it looks like. What does soul look like? What they call atma, or an atom of the source. So they always refer to Prime Creator as the source behind all life. It supports and sustains everything. And it's beyond good and bad. It's really where we are. And when you can take that away from people and dumb them down to a field of using their imagination in two ways instead of the one correct way, which is get them to think about and imagine a negative Armageddon scenario for their future, and you have trapped them. Because it's not native or natural for a being to think that way. The right use of the imagination, the only right use of it, is to imagine for yourself and all life, not just life on your planet, and create that which will be of benefit to all life. That's how normal human beings are in other worlds. That's how they think. That's how they grow up. So they become passionate, fierily passionate about contributing to their societies whether it's an invention or science or biology, in ways that will benefit all life, not just their own species either. This is the way we were meant to be. The source behind all life, what people call God or the Supreme Being, what they call Prime Creator, you and I and others have the ability to plug right directly into that. And the biggest illusion going down here is that people cannot know God, or they can't know the Supreme Source, or they can't know who they are. You got to wait till you die. That's a complete illusion. It's part of the implantation process. Human beings have the innate ability to do this. And when it starts to wake up in others, they know it for themselves. So what I do is present a way for them to contact that. More than anything else that I can do. The important thing isn't for them to take my word for it, because I don't ask them to. I don't want them to take what I say on faith. I want them to try what I share with them and then have their own experience with it. That's different.
Extraordinary stuff. Tracking. Now, this may not, I don't want to pull you into something weird that you go, what? What are you talking about? It seems like the tracking, you were speaking earlier about how they kind of keep up with us and they can interfere with us and they can implant us. It's the implantation thing that you brought up. That's what it is. And it's a ways back in the conversation, but I just want to quickly ask you, do you think because the implantation protocol has not been all that successful, do you have any idea that they might be attempting to do this with this vaccine thing being all the rage? Right. I had somebody tell me just the other day that's completely unrelated to any of these kind of discussions. This person is not interested in any conspiracy, this or that, just a real hardcore straight up, and is absolutely convinced that the reason that they are leaning on us so hard for firing people who won't take a flu shot and stuff like that. That's just the tip of the iceberg, is that they are, in fact, infusing these vaccines with a mechanism, if you will.
You hit on something there, John. You actually did.
Really?
And that is, they're the most negative misuse of extraterrestrial technology you could imagine. It goes way beyond what you can imagine. To control and enslave a race anywhere doesn't really work for what they call Atma or soul. Ultimately, soul eventually, no matter where it's been done in the universe, will break free of it. It's usually been one here or there, trained for decades under a spiritual master who has a devil of a time trying to extricate one person from this trap on this planet. It takes them a lifetime or several sometimes to get a few. So their hands have been kind of tied. They haven't had the tools they need to safely extricate a whole planet. Now they do. And that's recent, very recent. So it's been taking millions of years for these guys to come up with a way to benevolently neutralize these negative effects in people. That means you don't kill the bad guys, you liberate them. So they're not bad guys anymore. It's the only way it can be done safely. So you hit on something. When people are unable to control and people are waking up all over the planet, and they are, in ways that these diabolical things cannot totally suppress, when you get that aha moment, that aha, and you get an insight, there's part of you that's trying to surface through all that muck, that cloudiness in your head. That's the cloudiness in the pineal gland, the center of your brain, because you'll notice you'll feel that cloudiness right in the center of your brain.
Absolutely.
That's where it is, and it's a cloudiness there. But I wanted to share with you and your listeners at some point, maybe before we end, so give us a couple of minutes before the end of the show. I want to demonstrate this for you, for your benefit, for your staff, and for all the listeners, because it will work.
Well, Scott, why don't we just take a quick break here, and then when we come back, why don't we just do that thing?
All right, very good.
All right, very good. This is Caravan to Midnight, and what a pleasure it is to speak with R. Scott Lemriel. More to come. All right, we have returned with R. Scott Lemriel. Hey, Scott, we were just talking before we got it going again about sitting being bad for you, and you said you do a Tibetan regimen. And I said, isn't it amazing?
Right, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, there are 5 exercises. Hard to find the books on it, a little paperback pamphlet-type book. But there are 5 exercises that you do on a floor, spin clockwise 21 times. And there's a technique that can keep you from absolutely being dizzy when you come to a stop, which most people have a problem with because it heals that equilibrium in your body. And that's by focusing your hands together in a pyramid shape with your thumbs crossed and looking in your hands as soon as you stop, about at chest level, held out from you. And that'll instantly dissolve any dizziness. It's a phenomenon you have to experience.
Isn't that
gets
cool?
You through one of them.
Well, I was saying, I wanted to bring this to the audience too. I said, isn't it amazing the things that'll do the most for you, that take the least amount of time to do, people are just resistant to do them.
Yeah.
And you said,
it has a lot to do with the subconscious programming that's been done to them without their permission or consent, mind you, and through a classified program on this planet.
You know, people will say Wells is just always trying to invoke the religious aspect of things into it. But is that Satan? Is Satan just the thing that we call that which tries to undo everything that human beings could do that's actually worth doing?
I would say that evil, Satan, devils, all that stuff that people get off to, biblical people, and you know, people that have faith in different ways, they talk about these demons, but think of it more like people from other worlds. Most of them out there, the great majority, are more highly evolved than us, and their loving nature would help us in a heartbeat when they can, and that's underway. The other smaller groups out there that are still in our Milky Way galaxy that are totalitarian, you can imagine what a reptilian, 9 foot to 10 feet tall, built like Schwarzenegger, you couldn't beat him in a fight. Very intelligent, high spacefaring command technology that can come here, who are totalitarian, with a vested interest in controlling their own race and other races for power and royalty. They make themselves royalty bloodlines. That was imported to this planet too, that whole idea. And if you want to call that evil, these beings who create and do these things to harm people or suppress them here are not in control of themselves, because something was done to them 500,000 years ago by a white-winged race that came from another dimension, implanted them, and got them to be terrorizing sources in this universe when they were vegetarian. They were once benevolent. So those guys, at the end of that war, with help from friends from Andromeda, removed that right-winged race from this particular dimension, put them back in their pearl dimension, locked them in there. They cannot return. But this reptilian race that's now running around the universe is compelled subconsciously to behave in this terrorizing manner. So to solve a problem for Earth, you have to solve it out there first. And that means they had to have a way or a tool that will help to free those beings from behaving this way, and then do the same thing here. And that started about 3 3/4 years ago. It's underway. We talked a little bit before. So if you want to call that evil, anything that suppresses, controls, or shuts down a person's ability to contact the source of all life, to plug into it themselves and know things with certainty, anything that does that is evil.
Gotcha. Now, before we took the break, you were going to tell us about you were going to advise us on how to do something. I can't. My brain's going in 50 different directions. I can't remember exactly what it was you said, and I can't rewind and play it back.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. You know, when I do presentations in the public, I speak much more eloquently and slowly. When you're on radio, because it's a time constraint, you have to get a lot of information out. It's not the information that's important. It's important that individuals, yourself, your crew, and your listeners have and try this, because the hue that I'm going to share with you is only benevolent. It has nothing to do with the negative power, and it does not work with it at all. It's above it, beyond it. And that's what people should be plugging into. So it's designed and only does one thing. It connects you, the being, through the pineal gland, out into the universe to the source. And then you begin to get this awakening with your relationship one-on-one with it. And all the beings that work around it, all of these celestial beings, all of the Galactic Alliance, benevolent races, the Say rays, and even more evolved silent mentors or silent ones they work with. They're so evolved you couldn't even describe them in human terms. These beings start to come into your sphere of influence to help you. And they don't control you. They don't get in and possess your body. They don't psychically control anyone. They will be telepathic with you, but that's a benevolent thing.
And I take it that it won't freak you out like say, for example, one's first deliberate out-of-body experience. No,
because the way they work, like I described in my few experiences I shared with your listeners, with extraterrestrials, this was benevolent, fearless, non-traumatic to the nervous system. They approach people in this way. If you had an out-of-body experience tonight, John, and you met with these beings, some master, because all these races out there, they carry master teachers or master spiritual teachers aboard their craft. It's not like people think. And you would meet with these, you'd be uplifted, you'd be like joyful, you would be remembering stuff, and it would be gentle. And the unfolding process that I describe in the Series Agenda book, clearly how they unaberrate people, how they take these implants out, and how gentle they are, you'll see what I mean because it's in the book. How this is done off-world with this technology, to reverse the misuse of technology and turn it the other way. And there's spiritual elements involved in all of this, of course. There is an ancient single vibratory word that human beings can say with their vocal cords out loud or silently in their mind. They don't even have to speak it out loud. And it will vibrate the pineal gland in a very special way and begin to clear it out. And it brings with it a certain safety or protection that was not really available in this way past about 3 3/4 years ago on this planet. And it brings with it for the being who practices it, the ability to begin to connect in their dream state at night when they leave their body, never with anything negative or evil, ever, because it cannot connect to that. And those things cannot connect to you when you're using it. It's impossible.
That's beautiful.
So that's the thing I'm sharing. And when you do it, it comes with a certain protection, and the being starts to have contacts, experiences in their life with all that I'm sharing and revealing in the book and in present, so that they can validate for themselves what I'm sharing with them, be their own awakening, their own direct, true knowing, their innate ability to know with certainty. That removes the doubt and speculation and theory, because we're all capable, every one of us on this planet is capable of knowing that once it's woken. And it just sounds like this. If you take, for instance, if you take a couple of deep breaths, say you're in your chair there at the studio, or you're at home laying on your bed, and you just think of someone you love. This is important. It could be a dog, your shoe, your belt, a car, a waterfall, your wife, your kids, whatever. Something you love that you appreciate, that you have gratitude for. Then you send out this you into this primordial source, right through the pineal gland, because it only links that way. That's the secret here. And you just take a couple of deep breaths, maybe 2 or 3, shake off all your concerns about the world, hidden government, and all that stuff, good and bad ETs, all of it. Set it aside. Yeah, you're going to deal with it after you're done, but for now, put it aside. Concerns of money, everything, stick it aside. Put it on a shelf, then go into this you. And you do it for 2 or 3 times, and you'll notice a warm feeling or an uplifting feeling coming from your chest and your head. And when you hew, it vibrates only the head or the cranium upward. It vibrates just the pineal gland. Remember the Om that came out of India from the gurus there so many years ago?
Oh, yes.
Om vibrates the throat and chest area only. And that's good. It's a good process. It begins some things. But the hew only vibrates the highest center upward, connects you into the source. That is what it does. And there is no negative that can mess with it. That's the beauty of it. It's like a fail-safe, like I said. And it sounds like this. And you just pause and look and listen, maybe with your eyes closed, and you're looking at the screen of your imagination. Basically, that place you look at when you close your eyes and imagine a beautiful woman or a waterfall or a kid or whatever. And you just look and listen. You don't try to make anything happen. Take a few breaths, then you hew again. Always in a tone that's comfortable for you. Then there's an important statement that I share with people. It's a formulation of a certain pattern of words that have mental, like holographic images in it, that tells the universe in a very large way that you are ready and want to wake up. You want all of yourself. You want your whole self back. You want to completely wake up from this sleep down here and get out in the universe and really become and meet friends from long forgotten, from other worlds and other dimensions, and play in the universe, which we're meant to do. And this is what you would say after hewing a few times. You're sending this out through this link, this protected link. Say this: safely show me purposefully hidden truth on a grand, cosmic, multi-dimensional scale, and the much greater expansive love within it.
Okay.
And then hue again. And if you do it at night, say, or before bed, and you hue maybe for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't recommend more. And all you're doing is you're going to hue until you come to a phenomena. It's the same for all people. You'll just stop. You'll just know to stop. And then you go to bed and don't give it another thought, unless you're having experience, in which case continue to hue and have your experience. You may hear sounds called music of the spheres from the other dimensions. There are many dimensions above the physical, as well as 144 parallel dimensions in the physical alone that have physical worlds in all of them that these space-faring races traverse between these planes. It's very vast. And a human being can know this, and they once did know it.
Scott, when people don't really want to know it anymore, when they're just like, oh, I don't want to hear this. I just want to stay in my little box. I'm happy here in my box. What's telling them to stay in their box?
An implant.
Is it really an implant? No, I mean, no kidding?
No kidding. I'm quite serious. It really is a control mechanism to keep them. It's a terrorizing control mechanism. Like I said, the visual and sound is occluded, but you not the feeling. It's very clever. You don't get to see or hear what it is that's terrorizing. You just feel it. So you tend to want to block off or walk away from anything that might open you up. And yes, they are control implant mechanisms. That is a misuse of extraterrestrial technology. Absolutely.
A misuse of extraterrestrial technology. And that's the forbidden technology that you've referred to throughout our conversation.
Right. Yep. And it can be just as easily neutralized and will begin to be neutralized through the hue. The beings who have never been part of this trap are anxious to meet with and help people here, more than you could possibly imagine, because everything is connected. You can't just leave a planet suppressed out here with a bunch of Taiwanese ETs running around playing games, breaking an awful treaty forever, because it'll come back to bite you out there.
Right.
So they have to deal with it, and they are in the process of dealing with it, like neutralizing the radiation from Alaska down to South America that came from Fukushima. It's gone. 60 rads were measured months ago and then suddenly vanished. Big plume of this radioactive material was heading towards the west coast of the United States in the water, which is supposed to be 100 times more deadly than all the bombs set up above ground.
Yeah.
It's gone too.
Yeah. I kept hearing about this big plume coming our way, and they kept, and the experts kept moving it off.
It's gone. They don't know what to do about it, because what they're planning, what they're being covertly manipulated to do, is being neutralized in little places around the world. They can't control it. I'm talking about the bad guys from off-world and the hidden government stuff. So there's going to be more of this. They're not going to be harmed or killed or attacked. They're going to go through the same process. So they don't act like they are right now. That's the way to solve this. So when you hue and you'll come to a phenomenon, you'll just stop. And then you do this as an adult for up to 30 days, just 10 minutes. You can do it in the morning too, whatever's comfortable. You can do it standing up, walking in a crowd of people silently, and it'll still work. So I can guarantee this. People who do this and put a little effort into it so that you, the being, is asking for this source to just wake you up, then the people and techniques and process and things and events that come in your life will be arranged so that you can go through this and have this knowing certainty awoken for yourself.
This is Guy Fawkes Day, which, by the way, I haven't wished you a happy Guy Fawkes Day, but it is a happy Guy Fawkes Day. I'm great to be talking with you. And I certainly I'm not even about to turn this into some sort of a political discourse, but is this the reason that so much clearly, moves that are just inscrutable, the motives are just inscrutable, that are performed by our leaders? Is this the thing? Are these people all implanted as well? Or maybe not all of them, but there does seem to be some distinguishing features between the two parties. We saw that the third party candidates didn't do as well.
Because once they get elected, they get manipulated.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know it. They just change. And the thing is, most of them aren't even aware. I'd say a hidden elite on the planet, a hidden government, are aware of their association with extraterrestrials. They know it's diabolical, but they can't get out of it anymore. John, They trapped themselves by signing that treaty in the first place. They were outmaneuvered and outgunned right then and there. So, no, they're not in control of what they're doing. They wouldn't do it. Clearly they wouldn't. So that needs to be the first thing that's going to be addressed, along with the general population coming into an understanding of they're really not native to here. Never were. I mean, you call this your home, you call it your planet, of course. You'd be here for millions of years, maybe incarnating, but we're back and forth in other worlds and then here. And then once you get into the electromagnetic field on this planet, you're suppressed. It's a tough place to visit, and you never get out. It's the way it's designed. That's all coming to a permanent end as well. So that's the good news here, is that these friends from out of town, not only are we not alone in the universe, these guys have been anxious to actually come and land here in mass all over this planet, so that every single human being on this planet in the near future will know without a shadow of a doubt extraterrestrials exist. They will not be able to be covered up at all.
Do you get an idea where we go once the physical body gives it up?
Yeah. Oh, I know quite well. I go there a lot. It's better to know where you go before you die, which you're supposed to be able to do.
That's kind of what I was thinking. It might be helpful.
Yeah. The using of the hue is only benevolent. It comes from a very high place. It's kind of like the thing you finally link up with after a long series of lifetimes in many world systems to start to liberate this unconsciousness from life to life. You end it permanently. I'm sharing with you that other beings in other worlds, human beings who are normal, are like that. And Earth is not full of normal human beings at all. It should be, and it will be. And that process is underway. But we have a ways to go. So it's better for people to have their own direct experiences out of body at night, and then directly with these benevolent, highly evolved, spiritually and technologically advanced beings, not just from the physical universe, from higher planes as well. It's better each individual have that awakening for themselves, because then they are the knower. They know, and they don't need convincing about anything. So what I do is share with them a way to do that, to access that in a safe manner.
You know, this, well, every once in a while I come up with a question that's like way out of left field, comes without a warning, like a UFO, like the old Emerson, Lake and Powell song. Yes, it's Powell on that particular cut, not Palmer.
Right.
Yeah, this lady took me to task on that, and then she was like, oh, you're right. It's like, well, yeah. What are we supposed to do down here? What are we supposed to do? I mean, is planet Earth a school?
Yeah, it is.
Well, is that what it's, just in your opinion? I mean, I know you're not necessarily Motu, master of the universe, no. But what do you think we're supposed to be doing here, as opposed to what we wind up doing here?
It's very simple. A human being, you, the Atma, the soul, what you are as a human being, why we exist, and not just on this planet. The purpose, the actual purpose for it, and this is going to be not shocking, but people will begin to remember, yeah, I knew that. The purpose of a human being, your purpose, mine, everyone else on this planet, is to discover, explore, and awaken their ability to be a conscious co-creator with the source behind all life. That means we are destined to become gods amongst the great one supreme being. Because how else can it ever trust us to run galaxies and planets and step up to bat off this world? Human beings' destiny is far grander and far greater than people can possibly imagine on this earth. And so beings from other worlds respect that. And many people who were once high in their communities were trapped or imprisoned here. They need to be set free. Some of them need to go home. Others need to come here. Can you imagine a world where your kids or grandkids can go on field trips to other worlds as part of their education in safety and in truth? No lies, no deceit, no cover-up, none of it.
Wow.
That's normal for other people. Why not Earth? It's about damn time it happened here, if you ask me. It's way past time. There's a hidden history of colonizations and civilizations on this world, like Lemurian Atlantis and ones far beyond that have come and gone here that people are kept from remembering. It's their past. They have a right to know this. They have a right to know about fellows in other worlds. You're not the only life out here the Supreme Being loves or appreciates, what we call the Supreme Being. We are exactly the same thing in a small scale as it, identical in energy structure, same faculties, abilities on a smaller scale, which means our true use of the imagination is to create and have the passionate desire to create and invent only that which will be a benefit to all life, not just on Earth, all life everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
That's fabulous.
Hey, John?
Yes, sir.
It's all good, what's coming.
It is?
Doesn't seem like that out there now, but if you keep your eyes and ears open and try to keep out of the major news networks, which are entirely, they were bought up by the military-industrial complex after World War II, all of them, and are influenced one way or another. So you're not going to get, it was even advertised in California that this radiation had vanished, but it didn't get aired nationwide. Isn't that interesting? It didn't get aired around the world. But my friend up in Washington actually tested the radiation in the water before and after this event occurred to neutralize it all. So we know it's gone. The chemtrails are still doing. That's got to come next. That's got to be stopped worldwide. That's raising the temperature of the planet. It's like terraforming a planet for some other race and not us. Not good. So what's coming is the uplifting transformation of this planet. And believe me when I say it's going to be entirely unexpected. But the way it's going to be carried out is in such a non-traumatic way to the nervous system that people will naturally melt into it. That's all I can describe. I do describe how it's done in the book. So that'll help people a lot. And then when they do the hue, they can play with each of those chapters. In fact, I'm going to put out a 4th edition in May that will have techniques for each single chapter in the back so people can explore through the hue, validating what I say, and they're for themselves in their own way. I want them to have their own direct experience. That's the only thing that matters to me.
Yeah. Well, and when you say it's all good, that I don't know why, but you look at this thing that happened. I keep going back to. I mean, human beings lead the other human beings, at least as far as we know. We know that we're being controlled by external forces, always have been. Yep. But the representatives that are up there, at least certainly, and we vote and we think that we put them up there, and it's okay. That's great. But it even says in Scripture that nobody's in power that I don't put there. Get it? And I'm paraphrasing the Bible now, of course, adding various colloquialisms.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why, but I feel a shift in consciousness that was really trying hard to break out immediately after that 2012 thing on December 21st, all the way up through 2013. It was just like we're just like struggling. It's almost like being in one of those dreams where you're reaching for something, but you're getting all this resistance, or you're trying to slug somebody and you just can't make your fist go. It's like it's all being held back by really powerful bubble gum and you're stuck in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when 2014 kicked in, then people seemed to be going, wait a minute. I think I'm free of the bubble gum. Now, okay, I'm free of that. Now what do I do? And they started looking around, and all of these things started coming into people's consciousness, how crooked the monetary system is, and how insane some of these government policies are, these social programs that are unworkable. And it's like most of us who have been to college or university, either one, did something with a humanities class or something, and we were going to design a utopia, and they never could. People get into arguments over their utopia. Our utopia is better than yours. It was just like, wow, is this ever a lesson in people not getting along? But it's sort of
one of the ways.
No,
one of the ways to control people, even in the UFO extraterrestrial community, and this is going on. You can see it on coast to coast. You can see it anywhere.
Yep.
Just if you listen for years, you'll see that people are being kept purposefully in a state of doubt about anything and everything. No matter how much is revealed, then that means they're being controlled and dominated because they have no certainty in their own being. They can't access it, at least not other than through intuition.
They have no certainty in their own being. They can't access it. That's brilliant.
This hue will begin to liberate that. And the beings that are connected to it, because when you hue, they hear it off-world. They hear it out there. And I'm not talking about the bad guys, because they don't want nothing to do with it. But the good beings, the highly evolved beings, the beings that have love in and compassion for all life and want to see this world take its place among the stars, which we should have already been doing. There are millions and millions and millions of them are highly dedicated, highly trained specialists that are preparing to do this on this planet. There are pyramids manifesting in between stars in our galaxy. There's one in the asteroid belt right now. They're gigantic. They're radiant golden pyramids on a slightly higher parallel, so you can't see them, but they can be detected with certain instruments from the military-industrial complex. And there's two on the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans and one hidden in the mountains in Himalayas. And they create a grid work, a network that are turned on. That's part of the process of transforming this planet. And it's underway. So it has to be done by, we're not going to be able to turn around this planet because people cannot collectively work together. People in the UFO community don't work together mostly. They go to seminars together, but they won't collectively unite and topple their tyrants. Neither will anybody else on Earth. That's the method of control. When people know for themselves, they just don't support that kind of thing anymore. They withdraw their energy from it, and then it collapses. And I don't mean in a disruptive way. The people in it get changed, and then the whole system, they just don't do any of this nonsense anymore. We won't even need money. People in other worlds don't use it. It's a method of control by tyrants. And the whole idea of it was imported here. That, too, is true. So when I share this with people, somewhere down deep inside them, they know what I'm saying to them. They just sense it. They begin to wake up from it. It brings this to the surface. And the hue, when they start to work with it individually, they start connected to the source. And there is no negative power anywhere in other dimensions or off-world or amongst the extraterrestrial races that can interfere with that link once you establish it. That's beautiful.
Now, because we're over a phone, are you saying Hugh or you?
H-U, Hugh.
Okay.
It would sound like the name Hugh, H-U-G-H. Hugh, it's a round whole tone.
Okay. Well,
and you can mentally imagine it as well, or just send it out silently when you're in a group of people in your car.
yeah.
And it will connect you to this uplifting feeling and begin to bring about this awakening in your dreams at night, your out-of-body travels, your daily experience. It starts to work out.
Okay. Does it make any difference what the timbre of the voice is?
No, whatever's comfortable for you.
Okay, I'm glad it's Hugh and not you. Being a natural jokester, I thought that's what's the matter with Hollywood, because their mantra is me. You know what I mean? You're doing it wrong.
That's very good. I'm doing it right. Hey, it's not you, it's me. No, it's not me, it's you. It's you. No, it isn't, it's me. No, it isn't, it's you. That whole thing. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. No, the hue is very special. Remember, it's not native to this planet. It wasn't created here. There is a group that puts out information about it, and they do a great job, but it's not something I promote through my commercial work or anything. However, the hue is not patented, possessed, controlled, manipulated, or owned by any organization on this earth or any earth anywhere. And they wouldn't dare attempt it. That's important to say. And it's important that people find it out for themselves because that's what's important to them. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's why I do this. That's why I do this.
I don't know what's happening. I think because of the, I think so many people, in the same way that a joke spreads all across the country, talk about going viral. You know, people will just start, they'll just start picking it up. Nobody's taken any trips to other cities and brought it back. They just all of a sudden start saying the same thing. It's really strange. It suggests really more of a collective consciousness than stuff that's showing up on Facebook and Twitter, because it just, there are way more people saying that even use Facebook and Twitter. But I think sometimes, you know, it is said that when stress hits you, when difficulty strikes you, your body feels stress. And you sustain this stress for maybe days and weeks and months, maybe years. Then suddenly there's a relief moment that occurs, and the stress all comes off of you, and sometimes that can clobber you harder than the stress that you were enduring.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after this thing with the elections and so forth, however things work out, whatever gets done or what doesn't get done, that's still out there in the future somewhere. It almost seems as though a whole lot of stress has just gone, it's off. Now, new stress will come, but the old stress is at least temporarily alleviated.
Yeah, you're right. You're very insightful there, John, I think, because a lot of people, the people I meet all over the world and talk with and share with, they go through changes when I do a presentation. It's not my energy, by the way, that's doing it. And I'm not a medium or some being channeling through me. I don't do that. The beings out there do not channel through other beings. It's like breaking spiritual law. And it's not psychic in that way. It's telepathic. And that's a benevolent communication stream, an accurate one. It's not psychic when you experience that. And it's very peaceful, and it's uplifting, and it's not harmful or intrusive or controlling or any of those things. So I want to make that clear because it's important that people have a non-traumatic awakening as much as possible from the sleep they're in, the amnesia they're suffering from, which has been orchestrated, done to them without their permission or consent. And I mean that 100%, that has been and is being done on purpose, intentionally, and that there are forces that work now to neutralize all that, and people can connect into it. And again, it's just a matter of them trying a little bit every night and day, and they'll find it out. People all over the world are, so they'll find it out for themselves, and then they become certain in their knowing about certain things. And
I did a story.
Great.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's just that I did a story yesterday about how the government is going to effectively what they're going to do is to produce the desired behavioral effects in students and children. They're going to begin it looks to me like in the broad strokes, they're going to begin initiate a pharmaceutical protocol to ensure that the behavioral patterns they want to see will in fact be realized. In other words, it looks like they're going to use dope in furtherance of more mind control, starting with children in school.
Yeah, and remember, that's not a normal human thinking. In fact, it's not a human thinking at all. That whole idea is designed by beings who are not respecters of human beings at all.
Well, they're crude, aren't they?
They're crude but highly evolved technologically. Most of those races have acquired it by raiding and dominating other worlds and stealing their technology and that kind of thing. They rarely earn it on their own. So that influence on Earth is very prevalent, and it is highly classified, and it's been going on, and it's got to come to an end in a benevolent way, and I don't mean in a violent way.
I've never heard the term bipolar so many times in my entire life as I've heard in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Is there, do these benevolent ones, do they address things which may be organic problems, schizophrenia? Well, now we know that if you sit in your room and do LSD for, a few years, you're probably going to get a good dose of schizophrenia. But when it occurs outside of something that's clearly, you can identify the external stimulus that caused this reaction. Mm-hmm. What do you make of all this bipolar, I don't know who I am stuff?
That's all part of the implantation process, and some of it's chemically done. It's a combination of implantation, chemical suppression, which dumbs down certain abilities to perceive innately truth and hidden knowledge. It clouds it so that you're uncertain. Once you do that, you're controllable, very easily controllable. And, you just don't get people getting along about anything. Everybody's out for themselves kind of an attitude.
Yes.
That's the way you control a mass of people, to be a slave race. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
What is to give everybody sort of an every man for himself attitude? You can control them better that way.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's not natural or normal for them to think that way. It's been coerced, perverted, twisted. They're being compelled subconsciously to think and act this way. And it's just science, really, from other worlds. If you think about it, millions of years old, these races, good and bad. And if you want to abuse some technology, there's a race that developed this to keep people from ever getting a subconscious mind. Another race raided a world of humans, conquered it long ago, 500,000 years ago, before the end of this war. and took this technology and twisted it to create subconscious minds and beings to create slaves. You have to keep them less aware than you. One of the tall grays lives 800 years. How can a human being who lives not even 100 compete with that? Well, you can't. Obviously you can't.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing you do. Take away the longevity, shut down the photographic memory so you remember all the details about who and what's doing what to you. Can't do it. And make it use intuition, haphazard, shut down your telepathic function to plug directly in the universe and know when someone's lying to you or not and who's doing what. So I know about what they're doing, but the people I work with from out of town have recorded everything far better than the NSA or CIA or anybody can ever do on this planet, or the reptilian race, or the Greys, the short Greys, or any of these guys. And they know exactly who's doing what and where they are. If they wanted to kill them, they could have done it in a second worldwide.
Sure.
But that's not who they are. They're not going to kill any of these people. They're going to harm them. They know that they're not in control of what they're doing. They want to end that.
Here, let's just play with some for a minute. And this might not be your thing, and if it's not, but just sing out and I'll stop.
That's okay. I'm happy talking with you, John.
Well,
really.
All of these pyramids all over the world. They have various shapes and sizes.
Right.
Some of the folks that have come on, I don't even like using that word, some of the men and women who have come on the program, I'm not using the word folks anymore. If I do, It'll be an accident. I'm just giving everybody a heads up.
Yeah.
We kind of, through the course of the conversation, came to a sort of a semi-conclusion, or at least a workable hypothesis, that maybe these pyramids actually communicated with each other, that it was kind of a grid that overlaid the earth. But when the big cataclysmic event happened, all that got messed up.
Right. That's true.
And I just wonder...
Yeah.
Well, you said that's true. So was it for our benefit, or was it originally for our benefit and then it got twisted into something that wasn't good, much like our intelligence services did, and then came the big cataclysmic event? We just had to start over. Yeah.
Well, that happens anyway, regardless on this planet. And the military, well, I'd say the classified people, the most deeply classified ones, know about this event. They're preparing to save their own asses and let everybody else be expendable. Underground bases, off-road bases, they just want to save an elite. The rest of us are bye-bye. That's what they're thinking. That is an influence of an extraterrestrial race upon them, to think like that. It's not normal thinking at all.
What are the chances they could actually pull it off, Scott?
Yeah, well, they think they are, but they're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
No more than they've been able to have a nuclear war. It's not going to happen. Here's another thing. Those pyramids were built like the Lemurian or Mu continent. That Atlantis was a colony of it 100,000 years ago. And it lived, human beings evolved from other worlds on that Lemurian continent for 100,000 years. And the poles flipped, they're all gone. Atlantis was another big colony continent on the other side of the planet over the equator, 2/3 its size, was destroyed too. Then the seafloor rises up, land masses sink, and you get the continental stuff we have today. Very quick this event is, by the way. And so it's very destructive. And then you had a little 500 square mile island, which was Atlantis, that remained above water, which became the new colonizing seafaring power for the next 75,000 years, and then it was destroyed, I think, 35,000 years ago through the misuse of science. So these are just the last civilizations that had planted pyramids and structures as a connective and communication device, and they were also spiritual in the way that they worked these things. Some of the priestcraft who got co-opted by this race from outside that's totalitarian started practicing some pretty dark arts. They started sacrificing people to people who would eat them. The Sumerian culture, those are Anunnaki, are not human. They're reptilian. So they like to be worshipped and they like sacrifices. This is a group that in our history has had little pockets of control on the planet. Not the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that connects some dots for people. And if you go back down the time track through the you can go and explore much of these different histories and on other worlds if you want to. You have access to it in this way.
That's very interesting. What do you make of the Nephilim? It's clear that they existed. Everything from the elongated.
Were they described as giant humans? Very tall?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And in the Bible, are they described as being benevolent or malevolent?
No, they're malevolent, definitely.
Okay. You have what you would call several races of tall humans that out in the universe that became affiliated with tyrant races. And they went out and did some things, that they weren't supposed to be doing in playing gods like Apollo and Zeus and all this stuff, in having people worship them. To my knowledge, I don't know if the Nephilim sacrificed people. They probably did.
No, I think they were cannibals.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense because that's the nature of the reptilian race, by the way.
Nice.
They'd eat you alive if they could.
Absolutely.
They're not respecters of, so but they got to remember they are not in control of what they're doing, and they were once vegetarians. So we have to be careful here in that the races that are out there that know how to deal with them in a benevolent way and change them are working on them and working to do this now so that we don't have this recurring problem on this planet. There's going to come a time in the near future. Back in you remember the end of the Mayan calendar, December 21st, 2010, 2012?
Yes. Yep.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They had a show on Coast, I know, that somebody was really expecting an Armageddon or something to happen. It was very disappointing when it didn't. I've been telling
Yeah, I was in the chair the next night. I called it National Hangover Night.
Yeah, I tried to tell people for years that nothing was going to happen at the end of the Mayan calendar. The Mayan shamans themselves, maybe 500 of them, live mostly in Guatemala, that passed down the lineage how to read their own very accurate calendar, have always said since the turn of the century, this is not about a biblical Armageddon. This is about one calendar ending and a new calendar beginning. And they say, and they're simple people, we do not know what form this will take, but we know it is the end of evil as an experiment on earth, quote unquote.
Man,
and that process,
strong.
they call, is in the end time between 2007 and 2015. And it's flexible, but that's a general area when this process is starting to be underway. So they have a new calendar that has been enacted now at the end of the last one. At the turn of the century, some Bible people went down there, archaeologists, and tried to fit this into Bible prophecy, and it doesn't fit. It's basically extraterrestrial technology, and it doesn't fit there. So there's nothing wrong or good or bad about it. It's just that it doesn't fit. So what I'm saying is that the prophesied destructive destiny for this planet has been significantly, permanently altered in the last 3 3/4, almost 4 years now. Who are we to tell the prime creator, the supreme being, that if it wants to change its mind or create something new and a way to run the lower worlds or to run this world without evil as a cattle prod, who are we to tell it cannot do it?
Scott, this is the uplifting part of the program.
Right.
It really is. I mean, people want this. And I think that they've come to the conclusion that we're not going to get it from each other. It's going to have to be from the source of each other.
Exactly.
Without which there would not be any each other.
That's right. And you're right. You're completely correct. It's just what I'm sharing with people goes deep. This rabbit hole goes very deep and wide in that the source of life itself has, like, woken from a sleep, looked over the worlds, had a few beings come and present some new ways of doing things, which is our purpose, really, in returning, to come up with new creative new ways of doing things to solve problems, the bigger problems of the prime creator. How to run the lower worlds without evil as a cattle prod, which was brought into being, billions of years ago, and was designed to do a certain thing to motivate people who would not grow, and it's never worked. It's never really been an effective tool. And the worlds are still like they are. Positive, negative, good, bad, wars come and go. It's just never ending. So, who are we to say that this divine source of things cannot add something new? And we happen to be living in a lifetime on a planet in one little place in the third planet from the sun, in one galaxy out of trillions, where this great change is now underway. And what I'm sharing with people is that it is. And we aren't and should not be negating the future with our misuse of our imagination to see a destructive end for ourselves and our children, because that is being compulsively compelled upon them to think that way, to think about good things and think about bad things. Imagine good things, imagine bad things. It splits the consciousness right down the middle. We're not meant to operate effectively that way. We're meant to become co-creators with this source, trusted, experienced co-creators it can trust. so that we can step up to bat and start helping to run all this stuff and bring other things into existence, and just like beings that have gone on before us. That's our destiny. And there has to be a first word or a first sound frequency that came out from creation that was set up in the beginning that people can access to wake this up. That is the hue that I've shared here today. It just is that. And the important thing is for people to experience it for themselves. It's not for me to have anybody believe what I say or to take on faith only what I share. I say, use what I've shared here. I'll do it again. It sounds like you. Very pure tone, vibrates the head, pineal gland, cranium upward, higher spiritual centers, connects into the source, begins to connect you to all the beings that are constructive and benevolent that can help you to come across your path. It starts to do that and provides a safety, a protection while you're doing it that must be experienced to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And it supersedes all other things in creation, good and bad and all the rest of it. So it's this kind of momentum from the Ceres race through the Galactic Alliance members and millions of worlds that are engaged. There's 10,000 ships in our solar system right now, mass, cloaked in a way, at a higher frequency. They're just at a higher molecular frequency, preparing things. It doesn't matter about the tyrants from off-world. They're being dealt with in a benevolent way. Things are underway, neutralizing radiation. I mean, what happened in Chernobyl was 100 times worse, and what happened in Fukushima was 100 times worse than Chernobyl. 4 power plants blew the rods right out the top, exploded. It should have killed everybody in Japan. It should have killed most of the people in the western United States. Killed, 25 million people or something? I don't know what the total number is, but a lot of millions died in Chernobyl. That has not happened with this catastrophe, and it should have.
Yeah, so, I want to say it was less than any loss of a person that wouldn't have otherwise died if it hadn't been for an accident like that. It's a tragedy, but I thought it was I don't know. I thought maybe it might be that high. In fact, I'll look at it while we're talking about this. But I'll tell you, speaking of Fukushima, this really is kind of strange. I always go to E&E News.
Mm-hmm.
They have a quote from me up here. It says, E&E News, my favorite website for this sort of thing. It's like, that sounds kind of flippant, but not really. This sort of thing, like a radioactive annihilation of the entire population of the planet. I like this website. But it really is a great website. And there's a TV show where it says, this is really kind of scary. A grim reality for West Coast. Alarm as baby whales keep dying. Since 2011, none have survived over a year. A biologist says we see them pregnant for weeks, then no longer pregnant. NOAA says, not what we're used to. Incredibly poor condition. Skeleton with skin. And there's more. Now, I was popping off about China syndrome a couple of years ago. I said, China syndrome is when it burns. You know this, Scott, but it's when it burns through, effectively, this stuff is so hot, it burns through the dirt, goes down to the groundwater, and then you're well and truly screwed. Well, it says, a nuclear expert says, Fukushima is a pretty close approximation of the China syndrome. Melted fuel cores burn through containment vessels, and material is below reactor structures, mixing with groundwater. Essentially, it's a machine that's washing radioactivity into the sea. Then you got mysterious phenomena off U.S. West Coast. Fish disappeared, whales nearly absent, no krill, high rates of egg failure among birds. California fishermen, there's almost nothing there, just a lot of warm, clear water. And then food. One more. Food products heavily contaminated by Fukushima found in U.S. Over 30,000 PCI per kilogram of cesium. I'm not even sure what that measurement is, but also had cobalt-60 and antimony 124, or maybe that's antimony. FDA said, we found no Fukushima contamination in U.S. food supply during routine monitoring. I mean, this is unbelievable. This official says Fukushima destroyed our life. It can destroy history itself. Another professor says, very hard to imagine a future beyond Fukushima. It's so uncontainable. Filmmaker says, meltdowns opened up a fissure in time and space. Horror of radiation menaces the future in the present. It's like, good Lord, man. We need the out-of-towners to come help us out here, or we're toast, is what it sounds like, according to these reports.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, yeah. You're right. That's exactly what I'm sharing. Without their help, think of it this way. Worlds out there that got to this point of technologically advanced by influence generally from totalitarians who snuck technology in against breaking a treaty on other worlds, not just Earth, and were caught or kicked out. Some worlds were blown up by them as they left. So they're not going to tolerate that here. This world's far too important, and it would negatively affect life in many parallel dimensions if this was blown apart. They have a bomb here they brought here. One bomb. If it was set off by these reptiles as sore losers, it would disintegrate the planet, blow apart, and become an asteroid belt, like the one forming that is circling in an orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter.
Nice.
It's about roughly the distance between Mars and Jupiter is twice that of any other planets, because there was a planet there in our solar system. It was blown up 6 million years ago and caused some of the problems Earth is having today, and it affects life everywhere. So they're not going to make that same mistake.
Man, I
They're
hope you're right.
not going to allow that here.
I hope you're right, because I'll tell you, and you know, Scott, you must be positively onto something here, because every time nuclear tensions start increasing, anytime the old Cold War, and there still is one, all these idiots running around with their nuclear weapons, you know, anytime that stuff starts getting a little bit more serious than it was the other day, the UFO guys show up over the bases, you know. They didn't like us playing around with this nuclear stuff at all, did they?
No, they don't want us destroying ourselves because it would affect billions of them, and that's not fair. They can't allow that, because if 500 billion people in other worlds vote against the 7 billion unconscious people here who really don't have the free will they should have yet, and if they took a vote to intervene here and change this place and benevolently neutralize the tyrant soft world, and they had the tool to do it, wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. I
would if you were one of them out there. Of course you would.
Sure.
The question isn't about how to transform this planet. Their technology, John, they could neutralize all radioactive materials in all bombs and bomb casings and transform it into other matter that's useful in an hour worldwide. They could take and clean up all the radiation on the planet in the water everywhere and just neutralize it into powder, just non-radioactive. This is a piece of cake for them. It's nothing for them to do this. They do not build radioactive materials. I mean, let's face it, a radioactive isotope made by man, if it gets out of its little lead container, kills everybody in a square block in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they use it for? To boil water, to make steam, to drive a generator.
No, that's what Einstein said. He said, it's a hell of a way to boil water.
Yeah, think about it. It takes 1/10 as much money to burn natural gas to drive generators, okay? And if that's the case, why are we still funding nuclear technology that is only and always has ever only been destructive? There's no good use for that technology whatsoever. Bombs do what? Blow up with radiation everywhere. Nuclear isotopes get out of one of their little containers in one of these nuclear power plants. What do you got? Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island. The first nuclear accident in this country was 3 Mile Island, and it was just as bad as Chernobyl. You know how they solved that problem way back then? They drilled holes in the top of the dome so that pressure could escape and wouldn't ignite the fuel with hydrogen gas. When you flood a container with seawater, it produces hydrogen gas and then explodes. They knew how to do it then, and they let Chernobyl happen. All 4 of them. They didn't drill the tops at all. They just blew up.
Well, you know, it gets better, Scott. The so-called experts, now listen, they call them experts, but as we know, when the experts are baffled, that means they're not experts.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you know, you've got so many people on the payroll of saying what they need to know and only told what to say that they need to know and so forth and so on.
Yeah, maybe we should
You've
call
got
them
only a few
alleged
people in that
experts.
classified system that really know the whole story.
Yeah. Well, now sorry.
Yeah, you've got really good people in the military in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly generals that are good, but you've got a very small select group that are only allowed to know with black ops operatives what's going on in this classified arena with extraterrestrials. All the rest are kept in the dark.
Yes.
That's how that works. You've got a system that runs without any public knowledge or consent. It has nothing to do with voting. The Constitution of this country was put in a glass case in the Library of Congress, and that's all it's been, a piece of paper, since the national security was established by Truman, National Security Act, because it says in that act, All constitutional rights can be suspended, and you can be conscripted to government service without your consent. Your inventions, whatever they may be, can be taken into that complex and used for national security. If whatever you do say or invent can be construed as having national security implications, then there is no Constitution. Once that piece of paper was created here, at the inspiration of an extraterrestrial group, the third balance of power in this country, the Supreme Court, was null and void. It has no ability to peer into classified material. Therefore, it cannot function as a third balance of power, can it?
No.
Absolutely cannot. And so there you have it. And you've got a funding system for it that's outside any elected officials. Most presidents are not included in this classified area. Since Eisenhower, they haven't been generally. It goes into the rabbit hole of killing Kennedy and his brother because they wanted to disclose fully all that they knew about extraterrestrials, and that was too dangerous.
Could be why they got rid of Khrushchev as well.
Very likely.
Could definitely be possible. Now, what do you make of that?
So,
now, look, I don't mean to be like crass
no,
here,
we're
but
fine.
it's like,
We're fine. But remember, I'm always coming from the constructive, positive side of this transformative change when I discuss these hidden truths, because they are true, and people have a right to know them. There is a very positive side to all of this that even will affect all these hidden, misguided people in a benevolent way, because it's the only way it can really work.
well, you're in touch with these people, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, the alleged experts are warning of a volcano destroying Japan at any moment, causing nations' extinction. Reactors would be devastated and spread nuclear waste worldwide. Government says
Very big problem, isn't it?
volcano near nuke plant is shaking, tremor 7 minutes long, stay away, increased eruption risk due to 311 quake. Yeah, how do you deal with stuff on a scale like this?
Well, that's easy for extraterrestrials to neutralize those things if they want to.
Would you get them on the phone, please?
Yeah, they're on the phone with me now.
Excellent. Hey, fellas, how do you address them?
I'm not kidding. I mean, they're listening into this conversation. You're not going to have anybody messing with the satellites of this phone call. I guarantee you that.
We should have called them before we tried Skype.
Oh, yeah, but Skype, I don't know what the deal is with that. That could be rain for all I know, but they're not messing with this phone link, are they? And that's satellite. No,
they're not. And I'll tell you what, we have experienced stuff that people wouldn't even sit through. They just say, oh, well, whatever. It's like, no. We kind of know how to push buttons and plug stuff in pretty well down here. And I'll tell you, we've experienced stuff some people I've never even heard of before. It's so crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is something you're going to find, John, I think, as I'm a fellow being, fellow friend, a new friend anyway.
Yes.
You and your crew and everything, because of friends from out of town, and they're your friends too, whether you know it or not. Work with the Hugh a little bit, have some fun, do your radio show, but I mean, you're gonna have your own experiences, and if you want, you can, have contact with some of these people, and they're never going to invade your psyche or control your mind or do any of that nonsense.
No, I got TV for that. It's not working real well right now.
What isn't? No, your mind? No, it's working very well.
I say, well, we got television for that, but it's not working very well, so I was just being flippant. I was being my usual smart aleck self.
Yeah. Well, as far as the volcanoes, the biggest volcano on Earth is Yosemite, Yellowstone area.
Yes.
If that went, it would destroy the planet's surface. It would go into an ice age. It would be cloud covered. It's gigantic. But these things, for people from out of town, solving these kind of problems, they took care of millions of years ago. And I mean literally millions of years ago. This is baby stuff to them. If they want to neutralize something here, they will do it. There won't be anything any government or reptilians or anybody can do about it. Period.
Good.
That's a problem. That's why they're kind of frightened right now, because they know there's stuff that's interfering in their plans to eliminate 6.5 billion people here. 500 million are more easily controllable as a slave race than 7 billion. But here's the thing people don't get. Hollywood and its depiction of alien races coming here and blowing up this planet is not the way the tyrants think at all. Why would you carry all your people from another planet on many ships to come here to dominate an entire planet and force people, and put your own people to mine and get the minerals off? Why would you destroy an infrastructure of a planet? It's already got the mining in, the people to work it, transportation, hit it out to a secret base, ship it off world, nobody knowing about it. What you do is you get control in an elite, a very arrogant group of the wealthiest people. That's who you first contact. Then you get in control of them. Then you get them controlling the political leaders when they're elected. And then they head them in a direction to control all the people and keep them dumbed down. Now you've got a workforce already on the planet. You don't have to bring many of your own people here. And you can get all the stuff you want shipped off secretly. That's the way you do it. They're not going to blow this place up from outer space. They ruin their own resource. So that isn't going to happen either. It's interesting, but when you start getting into the stuff, it just makes perfect sense. You go, oh, wow, I get it.
Scott, it's the next logical step because, isn't it? This is the next. Well, it's already been done after the whole Roswell thing and Eisenhower's meetings with the extraterrestrials. By the way, I was speaking with Stephen Greer, Dr. Greer, some months ago, and he said, wait. You're confusing aliens and ETs. ETs are not the things that we've been making for years, which are sort of like little bio-robots. Do you agree with that? I'm not trying to pitch you against a guy who's not here.
No, I don't badmouth any other person trying to do good out there, but I can tell you this. With Dr. Greer, he seems to be of a person who will not even talk to you if you even try to mention there are some bad ETs out there. And that's blindsided in a way because it allows him to do what he's doing, and it's playing right in the hands of a plan this military-industrial complex has to create a scenario of alien attack in order to declare martial law and suspend all constitutional rights. That's what they're planning.
Maybe he's an ET.
The little gray guys, they're not all automatons.
Mm-hmm.
Some are controlled and some aren't. Depends on the area of the Milky Way galaxy you're from. There's a few reptilians out there that weren't controlled by the greater race somewhere out there. And you just can't mix apple and oranges all up in one big hodgepodge and call everybody's this, because it's very much more complicated than that. There are mostly benevolent beings out there, but not all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the condition of this world, it's very evident that that is true.
We're going to put a link from the program to obtain, to go directly to whatever site you designate where people can obtain your book.
Oh, yeah. I would just go to paralleltime.com, PARALLELTIME, just like the word spelled, all one word. They can get it there, or they can go right to Amazon, or I like to go to Barnes & Noble myself because I called them up and they do stockpile it in the central warehouse and they ship right away. Sometimes Amazon will say that they're out of stock when they're not. I don't know why they do it. Nobody can figure it out. But, you can get it at Amazon. They can get it at Barnes & Noble. They can get it at Google Play. They can get it at iTunes, and it comes in a trade paperback or ebook. And it's only like $15 or something for it's a 380-some page book. And then the ebook's like $9.95, so it's not expensive.
All right, fabulous. Well, you have our number. We have yours, so why don't we plan to stay in touch and have another fantastic conversation in the not-too-distant future. This has been great. I really appreciate it, Scott.
I really appreciate you and your staff, more than you know. I would love to come on your show anytime you ask me.
Well, we'll make that happen, and I'm serious. I will not be remiss in suggesting that if those who are on the line with us right now, and I don't mean the security service that we know of, I mean the off-planet security service, would like to get in touch, I would be completely amenable to this, and I promise I won't flip out and start squealing like a little girl.
No. If you start working with the hues I've shared, you'll have your experiences. Outstanding.
Scott, you rock, man. I mean, that's a simplistic way to say it, but what a great rockin' conversation with R. Scott Lemriel. Just a delight, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure being on the show. We're friends now, so don't hesitate to call. You know where I am. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul to get this planet transformed. That's why I'm here.
If you decide to go somewhere and it's in one of those really groovy craft,
come pick you up?
Yes. Yeah, let's take her around the patch.
Yeah, well, when they come and get me sometime, I think I'll arrange that for a few people. Yeah,
that sounds
that's
great.
coming up.
All right, Scott, take care of yourself. Talk again soon. All right, R. Scott Lemriel. Wow, isn't that fascinating? Well, once again, Happy Guy Fawkes Day to you. Oh, yeah.